All right, let's dive in. We're going to talk about a skill that's becoming absolutely essential in the vocational world, and that's getting a handle on big data. And look, forget Silicon Valley. This is a real game changer for people in manufacturing, logistics, technicians, you name it. Let's get into how. So a recent study from the OECD found something pretty incredible. You see this chart? The companies that are actually using big data are seeing productivity jump by 5 to 10% over their competitors. I mean, that is a huge advantage in any industry, and it really shows this growing gap.
And that one little statistic brings up a massive question, not just for the bosses, but for every single person in the workforce. In a world where every single percentage point matters, are you on the right side of that productivity gap? It's a question we all really need to start asking ourselves.
To help you figure that out, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about that competitive edge. Then, we're going to demystify what big data even means. After that, we'll look at the tools you need, check out some amazing success stories, and wrap up with the very first steps you can take to get going.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the why. Why is this such a big deal right now? Well, it all boils down to a clear, measurable advantage for companies and for your career.
Let's talk about careers for a second. According to some pretty solid EU data, adults who have even just basic data skills have an employment rate that is 9 percentage points higher than those who don't. Think about that. That is a life-changing difference when you're looking for a job.
And this goes way beyond just your own personal development. For a whole organization, the stakes are even higher. If your team isn't data savvy, you genuinely risk losing out on big contracts and essential funding. It's really becoming a matter of survival.
So let's switch gears and talk about the what. That term big data can sound pretty intimidating, right? But in the real world, the vocational world, it's actually a lot more down to earth than you might think. So when we say big data in this context, we're not talking about billions of data points from social media companies. Nope. We're talking about data that's just too fast, too frequent, or too messy for a normal spreadsheet to handle. Think about sensor logs from a machine updating every single minute. That's big data for our purposes.
And this right here is where we bust the biggest myth of all. You absolutely do not need to be a coding wizard. The reality today is that these amazing low-code platforms like Power BI and Tableau have made data analysis accessible to pretty much everyone. You're dragging and dropping, not writing complex code.
You've probably heard this phrase before, right? Data is the new oil. It's a great analogy because just like crude oil you pull from the ground, raw data isn't really that useful all by itself. It has to be refined before it becomes valuable.
And this is exactly how that data refinery works. Your raw data, like those machine logs, that's the crude oil. The analytics tools, they're the refinery doing the processing. And what comes out the other side? Clean, powerful fuel. These are the actionable insights that power your business forward.
Okay, so we know the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. What are the actual tools and skills that are going to turn that raw data into something useful?
Well, the impact of these tools can be absolutely massive. A study by Forrester on a tool called Power Automate found that users saw an average return on their investment of 224%. I mean, that's not just a small improvement, that's the kind of efficiency that can totally transform a business.
And the best part? The skills you need are completely achievable. It really starts with using dashboard tools like Tableau and Power BI. You need a basic understanding of stats, mean, median, variance, and then the really crucial skill, learning how to tell a story with that data. And of course, always using it responsibly.
All right, this all sounds great in theory, but let's see how it actually works in the real world. We're going to look at some incredible examples from some major companies. First up, the logistics giant, UPS. They built this incredible platform called Orion. It stands for On-Road Integrated Optimization and Navigation, and it's just a masterclass in how to use data effectively.
And the results are just mind-blowing. By using telematics, which are basically just sensors in their trucks, and predictive analytics, Orion optimizes millions of routes every single day. And in doing so, it saves UPS an incredible 10 million gallons of fuel every single year.
So this isn't just one win, it's what you'd call a triple win. UPS saves a ton of money, they slash their carbon footprint by 100,000 metric tons, and they get huge gains in efficiency. It's the perfect example of refined data at work. Now, let's jump to a totally different industry. We're talking about Heathrow Airport, one of the busiest places on the planet. They use Microsoft's Power BI to manage the unbelievable complexity of their day-to-day operations.
So what was the impact for them? Well, By giving their staff access to real-time dashboards on everything from passenger flow to security lines, Heathrow has managed to eliminate 75,000 pages of manual paperwork.
And what this really shows is a fundamental shift in how they work. Instead of reacting to problems after they've already happened, the staff can be proactive. They can see a disruption coming and deal with it right away. That means smoother journeys and a lot less stress for everybody.
Okay, so we've seen the power, we've seen the proof. The big question now is, how can you start doing this right now? Without a giant budget or a team of data scientists.
Honestly, it's simpler than you think. First off, just start small. Pick one important metric, let's say machine downtime, and just focus on tracking and visualizing that one thing. Second, think like a storyteller. Give your data a beginning, a middle, and an end to make it more compelling. And finally, always remember the ABCs of data quality. Is it accurate? Have you checked for any bias? And is it complete?
Because at the end of the day, the data is already there. It's in your business, in your sensors, in your daily reports. It's telling a story about efficiency, about waste, about opportunities. So the question really isn't whether the data is talking, it's whether you're ready to listen and claim your advantage.